Hey there team, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Worth Your Time, Worth Your Money, an ongoing series that I run here where I look at the opening hours of new and upcoming games, and today we're having a look at Escape Simulator 2. Now look, I'll be the first to admit I'm not really into escape rooms. I don't even know if they're still really a thing in real life. I remember probably 10 years ago they were a bit of a fad phase, and I went to one or two with some friends. It wasn't really my thing, you know? But it is interesting to see the flow on these virtualizations of something so quickly as well, you know, within 10 years. And funnily enough, I think they make the transition into video game form infinitely better than some ramshackle, dingy warehouse trying to make a quick buck off of a modern fad. So I've played a couple of these kind of puzzle room type settings. From a video game framing perspective, it's actually a gold mine, right? Doesn't need to make any sense. You can tie it together with theme, which they do in this, we'll talk about that. But ultimately, it's just a contrived scenario where you're trapped in something with puzzles. It doesn't need to make sense or anything like that. Arguably, pure gameplay distilled down. It can hang its hat on whether the puzzles are good or not. And that's the key part as well. Your puzzles have got to be good. And they can run the gamut from obscure to grounded. You know, I've talked about this before. Once you start straying away from math and spatial reasoning and Sudoku puzzles, and you get into this space, it can become a little bit more grey, a little bit more interpretive, dare I say like riddles, which can be hit and miss. Anyway, for all that setup, I didn't play the first one of this game, but I thought I'd check this one out. The dev reached out to me and I saw that it was co-op, and I basically said to the dev, look, I've got just the bunch of idiots that I can group up together and give this a red hot go. So they were kind enough to set me up with a stack of keys, and so we played 4-player co-op for a couple of scenarios of this. And what do I think? I enjoyed myself as a tourist in this space, right? I think if you're a big super fan of escape room games, you're probably going to really like this, especially if you've got a group of fellows that live and breathe this stuff. And if you're someone like me that doesn't really dance in these waters quite so much, you might still get a bit of a palate cleanse, a bit of fun from it, right? So I'm not going all in saying I'm a convert, that I'm in love with it or anything like that. It had some issues, but not things that I would call showstoppers or glaring stuff or anything like that. Actually, let's just talk about that now anyway. The structure of this is you make your character and there's a random button, and we all made absolute idiots, and it's kind of tragically in-group self-reporting when you realize that you think you've come up with the ugliest, bald, bright blue, idiot-looking character in the mirror, and then you come out of the mirror and you see two of your other mates have chosen the exact same guy. But still, it's good fun. I think the random button is a killer. You start in a little lobby, you can fiddle with stuff. There's a tutorial that's actually quite thorough at explaining the way that you interface with this environment, which is a little unique. Bit Resident Evil puzzle, you know, manipulating things, looking at them, zooming them in your face. You can piggyback off other people to a point, so if I'm looking at a piece of paper, one of the other blokes can look over my shoulder. Sort of. It's a bit hit and miss. It would be helpful if all the clues could be pinned for everyone to use. But the way it plays out is there are 3 different scenarios. We had a look at 2 of them, I suppose thematically, chapter-wise, right? You've got a Dracula's castle one, which is very cool. You got a spaceship one, which I thought would be cooler than it was, being that I'm a space fan. And then the last one, oh, what was that? I think it was like some sort of fantasy thing, but we didn't actually get around to checking that out. So within the 3 different, you know, settings, they have 4 progressive escape rooms is probably what you would call it, right? So I think we played about 3 in total. We only played for a couple of hours. And so here's the thing. They put you in the room. Like I said, it adheres to a theme, which is cool. You know, the first one for Dracula's, you've got a stagecoach. One of the boys is trapped in, and he's kind of got the answer to the puzzle, but you can't see it on the outside, so you have to, you know, talk your way through it. It gives you that sort of feel. But even like on the back of this horse-drawn carriage at the front of Dracula's castle, you've got Van Helsing's suitcase full of spikes and crosses and things like that you have to put in there to fill it up. It's cool. I enjoy the theme tying it all together. And so at any given time, there'll be a bunch of different puzzles that need solving. The first example, like I said, there's sort of like a big double door with 4 different slots in it. You kind of have to do these micro puzzles to get a key MacGuffin piece to plug into the door, and off you go. So as much fun as it is to share with friends, the downtime component is unavoidable. When this game is at its strongest, it's actually two-manning some puzzles, but that's a bit rare. Like, it doesn't happen very often. There was one where I was like using a bird's eye view force perspective item to look down on top of the world map and conveying, you know, what the symbols look like to a mate so he could plug it into a wall. That's when it's at its strongest. When it's at its weakest often is when it bottlenecks, when you've got one puzzle left or you're halfway through the run, because it sort of will go in waves in a way. So everyone's just waiting around for old mate to finish the puzzle, and it's not necessarily that he's dumb or dopey or anything like that, right? I mean, geez, we're all pretty equally dopey as a group, but it'll be a case of him trying to interpolate something, and he's in the puzzle, so the hypothetical dude will probably go radio silent because he's concentrating, and the rest of you are all just standing around throwing pots at each other or whatever, right? So the pacing has problems, which is sort of unavoidable. It's baked into the core design, and I do wonder, because like I said, this was pitched to me as a single player experience, I wonder if it's actually better just playing solo. Nothing against my mates or anything like that, but the dynamic falls over, let's say, half of the time. And then I think to puzzles like the carriage one that I gave the example, where one guy's trapped in and you have to let the other dude out. I don't know how you could actually do that one player, but from what I understand, you can in fact do this one player. Oh, and it's probably worth pointing out, generally speaking, I would say the caliber of the puzzles were good, right? They were comfortable. They were, I would say, slightly more brain teasy than like a Resident Evil puzzle. I personally, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, and to call the puzzles in Resident Evil games puzzles is a bit of a stretch, right? Often it'll be manipulating a box to pull a gem out of a back to put into a door frame or something. Like, it's very ABC, follow the bouncing ball, comfort food. It's fun to interface with, but I'll be the first person to tell you, even as Resident Evil is my favorite series, the puzzles are very, very surface level. So this is probably a step above it. I don't think anyone's really going to get super stumped. Some of them are a bit more, time consuming, but generally speaking, I wasn't really having a hard time with these puzzles. So I would argue they sit in the perfect normie sweet spot. The actual absolute strongest puzzle or setup to a puzzle was in the second chapter of the Dracula's mansion thing, where it's like a feast. So you're all at a feast table and you're all like locked into your seat separately. And I think because of that limitation, gimmick as it is, like you probably couldn't make the whole game everyone just locked to a seat, but you had to sort of pass plates back and forth to put at place settings in front of you, but you couldn't see, was almost like playing Who Am I? Like the symbol on the back of your chair above your head you couldn't see. So you had to, between the four of you, pass plates and goblets around and solve these puzzles by not leaving your position, but actually having to communicate and interface as a four-player entity. And that was the only time that it really did something like that, and yet that was the strongest that it got. So that might actually summarize this game very well. It's cool. It's probably more likely to be more of a single-player experience, even though this is advertised as four-player. While it has some really standout, interesting one-off moments where the four-player component shines, I feel like pacing and the nature of the beast, and, let's be honest, probably the nature of the person that is attracted to this sort of game, they probably enjoy insular, solo puzzling themselves. So look, I'm glad I gave it a go. I wouldn't say that I disliked it, and I think the general mood was the same for all the boys. We went in, we gave it a red hot go, we enjoyed the palate cleansing time that we had with it, but in the name of full transparency and honesty, I don't think we'll be coming back to it. And that's more just my personal gaming group and less of a condemnation of the quality of this particular niche. Very cool. Check it out if you found this interesting. Otherwise, I might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.